This is episode 49 of Off Script with Trish Glose, intimate interviews and fun conversations with interesting people. In front of my microphone today is Chris Brown, architect, design, and architecture based in Ashland, correct?
Yes.
Hello, Chris.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for being here with me. I met you, what was it, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago for the Cheese Festival?
Correct.
Actually. I was there to interview David Gremmels, and then this whole other story kind of formed out of seeing David and talking about the Cheese Festival, because we actually ended up talking about Craterworks for most of the interview.
Yes.
And that's where I met you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So talk to me a little bit. We're going to talk a lot about Craterworks, actually, but this building was debuted during the Cheese Festival.
Correct. It's very interesting to sort of have a public festival inside of a construction project when it's at about 75% completion. So I think it was a unique circumstance that we were able to do so, but ultimately I think it worked out very well.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Okay, again, we are going to talk about Craterworks because I have a feeling a lot of people aren't quite sure what that is yet, and they're going to be blown away when they find out what it is. But first of all, where are you from originally?
So I was born down in Mount Shasta, and then I grew up in Yreka. Pretty much moved up to Yreka when I was 4 years old and lived in Yreka until I was 18.
Okay. So I'm from South Carolina, so moving out to the West Coast, I lived in Vegas for a while. Never heard of Yreka, California ever until I lived in Medford. So what was it like growing up in Yreka?
I would say it was very stable, if that works. You know, Yreka is one of those places that doesn't change too much. I think it, for better or worse, I think that goes both ways. Mm-hmm. It's and it was your, I think, very prototypical rural, youthful experience there.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, stable, was that a good thing? I mean, like the things that don't change, that aren't changing really, was that a good thing?
Yeah, I mean, I was able to grow up with kind of all those classic experiences, walking to school every day. Next to a park, albeit there were, different circumstances there. Growing up in the 80s, mm-hmm. finding hypodermic needles in the irrigation canals on the walk to school and not knowing much about any of that. It was just, it wasn't idyllic in any way either. I mean, Yreka's got its own challenges, but
sure.
But as far as growing up with the same group of kids and sharing life experiences and helping kind of find our way through it all, I think it was wonderful in that sense.
I bet. Did you grow up with siblings?
I did. I have a younger sister, Mary. She's 2.5 years my younger.
Mm-hmm. Just doing stories within Siskiyou County, it's a ginormous county.
Yes.
Absolutely huge. And there's a ton of little rural pockets within Siskiyou County.
Mm-hmm.
Yreka is more of this kind of small town feel,
yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you were within Yreka. You guys weren't very rural.
Right.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
So was there a farm? Was there?
Nope, no farm experience. It was just mostly town life.
Yeah.
And, which was good. My father and mother were both foresters initially. My dad on the private side, my mom worked for the Forest Service, and then she later got into education. But a lot of time out in the woods. I mean, we'd go out cutting wood on the weekends, but no real like ag life per se.
Right. I was going to ask you, so you said parents were foresters, meaning, are we talking about like land protection, management?
Kind of both. Stewards, I think, in regards to, commercial forestry, as well as, I think, looking to cultivate and protect what they both love, which mm-hmm. is a forest as well. But finding that balance, I think, is very important. And I've been trying to do the same in my work of resource management in a way that we can preserve it and sustain it for, the future to come.
Right.
And also keep what we love about this area intact.
It's an ongoing, forever debate,
Absolutely.
Isn't it? I mean, you look at last summer, and there were so many different opinions about, we need to manage forests because that's going to stop wildfires, and other people are like, no, we can't touch the forest because wildfires are not. I mean, there's just so many schools of thought and how you manage forests, especially out here. And you look at last summer. I don't know if you were around last summer.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty gnarly.
Yep, absolutely. Well, that was like the third year in a row or something. I mean, we've been seeing that. growing up, it was like the 87 fires were kind of a very visible like milestone in my life. My mom was out downriver on the Klamath working out of the Happy Camp base camps for about 3 months that summer, so I never like saw her, I remember. And just the pink red skies at night, and but now it feels like that's kind of become a standard for us here.
It's sad.
Yep, a little bit.
Yeah. I don't really get that whole, like, if I can't see the sun for a few days, it doesn't, like, depress me or anything like that. But I think last summer I went through a little bit of a depression because you can't breathe, you can't be outside.
Absolutely.
And it's just hot and smoky. It's disgusting.
Yes. And I don't know if there's, like, a fix-all solution to it necessarily.
Right.
I mean, I think, management goes a long way, but it's also just there's maybe just a time where forests need to burn also, and we happen to be living in the midst of that. I mean, we live right now in the forest, and it's kind of one of those things when your house is out there, you have to, I think, be at peace with that in a way. If the forest goes, it's gonna go.
Well, you look at hundreds and hundreds of years ago, forest fire was a natural thing. That's how Mother Nature basically cleaned up. Cleaned house, so to speak. What was your mom doing for the 87 fires?
She was down there in base camps, working on support and also doing legal coordination. I'm not sure exactly the details there.
Okay.
But,
How old were you?
I was 7.
Okay.
So I do remember like her bringing me home a Superman comic at the end of that stretch, and that kind of made up for all the lost time.
Aw, that's a good mama. I like that. So you went to Yreka High School?
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
98?
99.
99?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You're a year younger than me.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. So what was that? What was high school like for you?
High school was great. It was a lot of fun. Had some very good friends through there, still do. That's the beauty of Siskiyou County, I think, in a way. It's like you can't really run that far from it. You come home and it's all there, and you're confronted with your childhood and your memories and experiences, and everyone that remembers you also. So I feel like that's a real fundamental truth of that experience is you are still held accountable for what you did when you were in 3rd grade or 7th grade or 12th grade.
Yeah.
And
I'm from a small town in the South. You can't get away with a whole bunch.
No, everyone knows your business.
Everyone knows your business, and it's in the most endearing. It comes from the best place, I think, knowing your business. What comes after high school for you?
So I left right after graduation there and headed down to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
What an awful place to go to school.
I'd like to say I chose it just for my academic pursuits, but really I chose it so that I could be close to the ocean and learn how to surf. And, I think the rest came later. But, it was definitely like trying to just get as far away as I could and see kind of the world, or the beginnings of the world for me. In a way.
Was that important for you to get far?
Absolutely. I mean, and it's not, in the big picture, it wasn't that far, but at the time it was like a journey to the other side of the earth, kind of.
I would say that's pretty far for an 17, 18-year-old.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty far. And Cal Poly is a very specialized school, right? I mean, it's very much designed for certain majors. Yes.
And it's funny because I didn't really know much about architecture at the time, other than I was intrigued by it. I always have loved art and drawing and building as well. And at the time, my guidance counselor in high school told me, you can never get into architecture from Yreka. You need to do something more practical, like engineering. So I went in as a declared mechanical engineer major. I spent a year there and knew right away that wasn't going to work for me. So then I kind of had to put it all on the line to make the leap over into architecture, and it was accepted the following year. So,
nice. So it paid off. Were you the kid in class that was doodling all the time?
I drew a lot on stuff, yeah.
On stuff.
Yeah, papers, desks, what have you. It was a constant way to pass the time.
Did your art, especially as a young person, did it have a certain theme to it?
Sometimes, like, I think it reflected my kind of evolution through different stages of my life. Absolutely. And then I remember distinctly feeling after the first kind of intro to architecture class I had, I was like, wow, if I can do something where all I have to do is just draw all night. I mean, that's the thing with architecture. It's really just about how much perseverance and discipline and how far you can go with it to get across the finish line. And I said, if I can draw all night, I can draw multiple nights in a row, this is the one for me.
Interesting.
So, yep.
Okay. So architecture, you get accepted and it just fits.
It did fit. Yes, it was one of those situations. Yep.
Okay. When you're done with this major in school, are you pretty much done, or is there any sort of follow-up education that you have to go through?
So at Cal Poly, it's one of the few universities here in the States. They have an actual Bachelor's of Architecture, which is a 5-year program where you can actually come out with a degree that allows you to practice architecture and be licensed without having to go pursue a master's. So,
okay.
It took me 6 to get through, but yes, and at the end of the journey there, I did have a very kind of one of my few professors, I think, that really impacted my life greatly, and he said, very distinctly, like, he was an older curmudgeon. He called himself the benevolent dictator, and he said, don't waste your time with masters. Go right to work. Get out there, do your thing, and make some headway. Don't just waste your time in schools and find yourself in deeper debt.
Don't be that professional student.
Yeah, or the professional professor who just never gets out of that environment.
Right. And some people that works for them.
Yep.
I had those crotchety journalism professors who were like, get in and out in 4 years and then go get a job.
Yep.
Go out into the real world, because the best experience I've ever received in this profession was right here at KTVL.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of like graduate school in a sense. You make a whole bunch of mistakes and it doesn't really matter because you're 22 and dumb, and you can just kind of make up for it later.
Yep.
So you're done in 6 years.
I was. Yep.
You get right to work.
It was quite a journey in between there. I spent some time over. I kind of traveled through Japan and Turkey and school in Denmark, and then at one point there, I had pretty much just dropped out of school altogether. I felt like I was done with it, and then I had my first daughter with my wife, and that kind of threw me right back into school again to finish up. So it was kind of like in between all that, there was a lot that happened, and thankfully having that drive and perseverance there at the end, and then having to also support a family, it really put my feet right to the fire. So
nothing like a kid to really get your butt in gear, right?
Yep.
Where'd you meet your wife?
So we met in San Luis as well.
Oh, okay.
Yep. She's a ceramic artist, and she was at school down there in Cuesta. And when I kind of went to school overseas and traveled abroad, it was your kind of like pen pal romance type of thing. So over email, right, instead of mailed stamped letters.
It's okay.
But
it counts.
Yeah, it worked.
Electronic love letters, they absolutely count, and
Yep.
so much quicker.
Yes, and a nice way to build a relationship too. It really allowed us, I think, to find and kind of set that foundation that's really carried us through over the last 14 years as well.
Awesome. I was going to ask, your goal going into all of this, was it to build homes? Did you want to build structures? What was kind of your kind of goal, the light for you?
Social housing has always been a big push.
Awesome.
Yep. And that was what I was studying in Copenhagen. They've got some really interesting housing models and formats that they've used there. I think it was that same professor was Bilgi Dönel, and he came from Turkey, and so he had seen the need for housing on a huge scale. He was looking at housing hundreds of thousands of people, and that's something my mind can't even really comprehend that.
Same. Yeah,
here in rural Southern Oregon, we deal with needing to house communities or needing to provide shelter and housing on a much smaller scale, but I think the rules and the goals are the same.
That's such an interesting point because you look at Southern Oregon and Northern California, specifically our viewing area here, housing is such a huge issue.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who do have housing, half of them can't even afford it.
Correct.
It's heartbreaking.
Yes.
How do you survive as a human if you can barely afford your apartment or your house, or you can't even find one?
Yes. And it's I wouldn't say it's a crisis, but it's like approaching that point. I mean, and even building up, when we came back up here to find work and start our life, a big part of that was we were kind of bridging the like northern rural Siskiyou County with industrial kind of Southern Oregon, Medford, Ashland, because there is commerce there and there is architecture. There's not much architecture in Siskiyou County. So it was kind of looking at these epicenters. It was like either we're going to Redding for work or we're going to Medford, Ashland for work. And we live in the middle. So we're able to sort of take advantage of a somewhat more modest housing market while engaging with these centers of commerce. I think when you're trying to live in the center of these cities, you're seeing much higher bills, much higher cost of living, and that makes it difficult.
Yeah. So what was the motivation behind moving to Southern Oregon?
I worked in Redding for a summer going up through high school, and it just is too hot. I have to say,
that was in the back of my mind. I'm like, I know Redding had to be the heat.
Yes, yeah, and Southern Oregon is just beautiful. I love the water. I love the mountains. Mm-hmm. I love the people up here. It's wonderful. So
you guys moved to Ashland immediately then, or?
Yep, and we what was that? I want to say it was 2006, 2007. And we got our foothold up here. I got hired. I started work with Ray Kistler, architect, and that sort of opened the door there. Ray gave me a kind of foothold to start and taught me an incredible amount. And then I was with Ray as he formed Kistler Small White, the architectural practice there. And Matt Small and Jerome White were very formative teachers all the way through, kind of stepping out on my own in 2012.
Okay, I was going to ask, you stepped out, you opened your own firm.
Yes.
In 2012?
Yes.
Okay, and that's what is architect, design, and architecture.
Yes, and originally it was just kind of me in a little one-room box or working in the library or trying to string pieces together. And, slowly it's been able to grow. And right now we have, we have 7 in the office and wonderful people. I have an incredible team that helps support me along the way too, and I can't say how important that is in life to have a good team with you.
That's success, dude.
Yeah, I feel really thankful for that.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, we get too hung up on what defines success, and it has to be I'm a bazillionaire and I have multiple properties and I have a private plane or whatever, however you want to measure success. But success is also, in my opinion, coming from a small town and just creating something on your own.
Yes.
And making it work, doing it.
Yep.
That's awesome. Good for you.
I feel like living the life you want to lead is a huge part of that. I always tell myself that. I'm like, okay, I'm either creating my own cage here or I'm creating my own misery or my joy, depending on who I surround myself with, the work we do. And I think just the fact that I can wake up every morning and still feel inspired and go to a place where people are smiling and happy instead of frowns and misery is like a big part of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't want to poo-poo the people who have worked incredibly hard to make $1 billion.
Right.
I think that's incredible. It's just, it's just different pictures of success.
Yes.
I guess we could say that.
Yep.
What kind of projects were you doing in the early years?
I had one client to start with, and they're wonderful clients. I still am very good friends with them today, and they kind of gave me a foothold on a private residence, kind of beautiful, idyllic home that they have out in Little Applegate. And to me, to have a 10-year relationship with the same client and from, I always say, like, that says a lot in itself.
Yeah.
And then my aunt and uncle also gave me an incredible opportunity to work on this office mixed-use building That was kind of a very transitionary project as well, getting a foothold there. And then I think really just having the family support is huge. I can't say enough for that, to just kind of keeping my feet grounded. And, I remember my goal was to make $2,000 a month to pay the bills and like keep the doors open. And it started from there, and then it's been growing and gathering momentum. And then I love the idea too that, everyone that works together towards a purpose, like we can share in that too. I really believe in rewarding people for the work they do, and everyone should be able to live a fundamental, like healthy existence. I mean, as free from debt or worry about finances as possible. I know we all have to deal with that. That's the reality of life in this society. But I'm not about like paying the minimum wage. I really do believe people should be rewarded for their work. So that's a big part of it too. And I like feeling that support in reciprocity. I like feeling that go both ways, where you take that out of the equation, the angst and the worry and the undervaluing, you take that out of the equation and let people really do the best they can and show what they can do.
And it's good karma.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, I think we all feel that when you've come up working hard in your life, and I really do value hard work and that ethic. And I feel like if you persevere with that, it's gonna reap rewards. So
yeah, when you put good in, you're gonna get good out. And there are business models, CEOs of multi-million and billion-dollar companies that you'll see when they take not even a massive cut in pay, but they make the pay across the board a little bit more equal, where everyone's getting a little bit more and maybe the CEOs are getting a little bit less. It's not that huge of a gap, and it's still, like you said, it's fair.
Yeah.
And your employees who are working hard for you, who are dedicated, are getting that compensation that they deserve.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of models out there, and if we had more of those, I think we would find ourselves in a completely different world.
I agree. I think it's a little adjustments and the little fine tunings that do really go a long way.
Teeny tiny adjustments.
Yes.
Actually.
Yep.
So in 2016, I've never built a house with a builder before. I don't know if you know John Clayson.
I don't.
Based in Ashland. He was our builder, and we've heard horror stories about home builders, that they can be awful and all of these decisions and scheduling. It was the most beautiful experience to build this home with this man, because he was amazing. And just, we still have somewhat of a relationship. I sent him a Christmas card, when I remember. But he will always forever be in my mind as this person who built us this home.
Nice.
And that's a huge milestone in someone's life.
It is.
To build them a home.
Yes. I would say it's probably, if not one of the ultimate milestones. I mean, short of having a child or those major life movements. I think too, building is an art. I mean, building is kind of one of the master crafts in a way. And so often I feel like we've lost some of that reverence for that action as well. And I have the ultimate respect for builder. I think a lot of architects get penned with this kind of ego, oh, they're the ones who have all the ideas. Every project we approach, I seek to level that right away and really learn as much from the builder as possible. How can I pretend like I go to school for 6 years and learn more than what someone spent 30 years, 40 years generationally doing and understanding? And
well, it's teamwork.
It is.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing experience. There were frustrations when he was like, what kind of toilet do you want? And I'm like, I don't know, dude, just one that works.
Pick one out.
Yeah, pick one for me, a good one.
Yep.
But it was such an amazing experience, and I walk through my house every day feeling so incredibly grateful that I had this experience and it worked out, and that I met this person who was able to be there for us in that perfect time to build this house. Anyways, I could talk all day about that. Let's talk about Craterworks, because again, this is how I met you a couple weeks ago. How did you get involved with Craterworks? Take me to the beginning.
So the very beginning on that, I met a builder, Jeff Benton of Excel Construction, and I think I met Jeff when he was repairing a door that a guy had put some golf tees in and screwed in to get it to hang correct, and Jeff was just like, nope, that's not how we do it. We can do this correct.
That's lovely.
And so Jeff was rehanging the door, and he was actually one of my alumni from Yreka High School was working with him, Ryan. I saw Ryan, then I met Jeff, and Jeff and I kind of formed a relationship over about 2 to 3 years' time, working on some projects, collaborating on work, and Jeff introduced me to Tania Browning. And, Tania is the executive director of DIRT, which is Direct Involvement Recreational Teaching. Wonderful organization.
Awesome.
Yep. And then, Jeff said, I think there might be something here you'd be interested in. And Tania came over to my office, and she kind of did the walk around, and, she mentioned the kind of dream of CraterWorks in its inception. And they were putting out for RFP, request for proposals at the time, with Samantha Steele and Central Point School District 6. And I went to a walkthrough there at the Crater Ironworks, or I was invited to a walkthrough to see the project, which just kind of blew me away. I love steel, I really do, and this was like a dream come true. It was about a 20,000 square foot. I don't know if anyone's seen Crater Ironworks on north on 99 there. It's a giant steel building with a bunch of steel, a bunch of gantry cranes.
Yeah.
And to me, it was kind of like an open canvas. And then to meet Samantha, to meet Todd Spencer, everyone up there in Central Point is incredible, and just their vision and their inspiration and kind of reach for a project like this was incredible.
Was it the school district's idea?
I think it was a collaborative idea. I'm not
Okay.
sure if it was Tania's idea or Samantha's idea, or where the idea first took hold. But I do know that they were with Kelly Roy up out of ADX in Portland. So Kelly came in the early stages of the project, and really her model that she's created in Portland of a makerspace and that open shop format for dreamers, builders, anyone that has an idea, to create that idea was a very rich inspiration. And then I know that Samantha and Tania traveled all over the country kind of looking at these other similar maker spaces and formats for that. So it was very collaborative, and it's been collaborative the whole way through.
So cool.
Yep.
And this is a building I feel like a lot of people have driven by 1,000 times and never even noticed it.
Yes.
It's just north of the Rogue Creamery.
Correct.
A ginormous steel building. Used to be Crater Iron.
Yes.
Ironworks?
Yeah, Crater Ironworks. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And I was talking to David Gremmels, and I'm sure there's so many people in this valley who their dad or grandpa or whoever worked in that building.
Probably.
So cool.
Yep.
So the whole idea, because it took me a little bit to wrap my head around this, a maker space. And this is essentially so many different kinds of, I don't even know, skills, really.
Yes.
Are within this building.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And more to come.
Yeah.
I mean, yep.
It's how far along is it right now?
I think we're right at about that 75-80% mark.
Okay.
We are looking at completion in late April, and hopefully doing like a soft opening, I think, end of April, early May. Equipment's being purchased and ordered. I've really always seen this as a kind of open source platform, I think. And from the get-go, we've had 4 or 5 community charrettes out there and open houses where we did a bunch of pin boards and what do you want to see here? What are your dreams? What do you want to see this space hold? Mm-hmm. So my hope is that the book never really closes on it.
Beautiful.
And that it's a platform that can always adapt, that can change, that can respond to community needs and interests. And school, I mean, that's what's so unique about it, is it's actually bridging the professional world with the educational realm, high school, and, basically K through 8th as well. So hopefully a lot of those kind of overlapping interests are very very collaborative and also innovative in what comes out.
Well, because it's really for students.
Yep.
However, the community can take advantage of this too.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's in, and that was really the Central Point Planning Department and Building Department. We were with them from day one there, Tom Humphreys and Derek and Matt, and they really also made this happen because it's a hybrid use,
Yeah.
and it's an employment. It needs to keep making profit. It can't just be a nonprofit entity there. It needs to employ people. It needs to have income. And then it also needs to bridge over into the educational sector as well, the public educational realm. And so it's kind of like walking out there on an invisible bridge a little bit.
So cool. What is specifically inside this building? Because it's broken up into classrooms.
So we don't have like a formal classroom per se. What we have are labs.
Perfect.
And
okay.
shops.
Okay.
And so what we have is we have a design shop, which is essentially like a 20 station. So we have kind of five micro stations of 4 consoles where you can do, we'll have all the latest kind of digital rendering software, CAD, SketchUp, Revit, Adobe Suite, Illustrator, CorelDRAW, so you can actually create your designs.
Mm-hmm.
You can present your designs in a small kind of micro office climate as well. So if you say you were a professional that didn't want to be working out of a coffee shop or didn't want to be working out of a library, you could actually have a client come in there and do a presentation on a 60-inch monitor and screen.
Wow.
About a product. And then from there you can, run that into a CNC machine. You can do 3D printing, prototyping, or we also have more traditional, there's basically a 1,200 square foot fabrication metal shop and a 1,200 square foot wood shop. So those are sort of bridging tradition in a way, and then also with contemporary technologies, and then also really looking at construction education. I mean, that's a lot of where this involvement and kind of direction has gone, is that the construction industry is missing a critical group of youth, of the journeymen, of the who's coming up to kind of take the helm in these construction industries, which is, everyone keeps talking about healthcare growing, get in the healthcare industry. Construction's not slowing down or stopping, and it won't ever stop.
No.
Our population needs housing, they need buildings, so there's a huge component of that sector that I think is missing in our traditional educational path right now.
That's so awesome to me. There's also going to be a commercial kitchen.
Yes, commercial kitchen, ceramics, fabric, like sewing, fashion, seams, and then theater, AV. We're getting into AV production on the next phase too. There's a lot of room to still grow, and it's just kind of taking it one step at a time. So we're really, like I said, looking at that 10-year, 15-year plan of
Right.
this space filling out and adapting.
And this is for, and correct me if I'm wrong, but professionals can come in too and maybe use the metal shop for
Absolutely.
a project,
Yep.
and then teach and learn right alongside students.
Yes, and that's
So cool.
Yep, and that's the idea. The kind of membership format is sort of out of my wheelhouse, but I do know that they are looking for invested, inspired people, professionals to come in and be a part of this, and even, kind of making that exchange with free memberships or crediting and
Right.
working right alongside to help kind of bridge that, industry and education.
Well, and we have so many people in this valley who have worked for decades on something and that are true experts, and to have them in this makerspace working alongside a 16-year-old is pretty awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
And you can get a membership eventually, like you would a gym membership here?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the format. I know at the Cheese Fest, I think Tania's and Samantha sold 10 memberships. They were selling them at a kind of a bargain rate for a year. So they were selling annual memberships at a subsidized rate. And once again, I would just look up DIRT, D-I-R-T, Tania Browning, Craterworks. It's out there on the web, and you can find a way to get that membership going to make those connections.
Awesome. Well, and we, meaning News 10, will definitely be there for the grand opening.
Wonderful.
Because I just think this is something, I don't know, I've never seen or heard anything like this before.
Yep. And people are like, what is this place? Where
Yeah,
did
that's
this
how I
even come
was. I'm
from?
like, what is this?
Yep. And it's actually right there, I think, on the front lines of a lot of where you're seeing education go right now. And the fact that it's here in the Rogue Valley, in Southern Oregon, in Central Point, just says a lot about what can occur when you reach out for a vision and make it happen.
Agree. Non-traditional.
Yes.
Like give students, give them so many different opportunities. Not everyone really was designed to go to high school for 4 years and then college for 4 years and then be done and go into the workforce.
Right.
It just doesn't, it's not a thing anymore.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I call it traditional, non-traditional, or non-traditional tradition maybe, because it's like going back to that apprenticeship crafting model.
Yeah.
Where if you had a love for something that you knew as a child, and you can follow that and you can step out into the world and not lose that time, not lose that traction, not get disillusioned out there. You can come right out of your 17, 18-year-old kind of journey and keep going.
For sure.
Yep.
It's super cool. I'm really digging this Craterworks, and I'm excited for our viewers and listeners to learn more about it as it gets finished. So we're going to wrap up a little bit, but I have to ask you about your dreads.
Okay.
I know it's one of those annoying things you're probably like, ugh, it's the first thing maybe people notice about you. How long has this been?
It's been 14 years.
14 years?
Yep.
What was the motivation to start?
It was really, I think when I did go back into the world, as you would say,
right.
Like after I was like, okay, got my family, got my daughter, I gotta jump in this and figure it out. And I just kind of made a promise to myself too. I wasn't gonna like lose my path along the way. And so I sort of set out with that heading and direction and, believed in making it work and being valued for the integrity of who I am, not necessarily, it's not like you can go out and expect people to just open doors for you in the world. I think you have to really hold yourself at a caliber and a level of professionalism that you would expect to be met with. But I really do believe on like the fundamental value of integrity and that does transcend, appearance or ethnicity or religion or race.
Yeah, who you are, not what you look like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Do you think people judge you?
I've definitely been judged. Yeah.
How so?
Well, there was just one instance I remember on a dental clinic we were doing, and one of the contractors at the pre-bid, he just walked off and, he told the project manager that he wouldn't work with someone that looked like me, and which was okay. I mean, there's 15 contractors out there too, and we found the guys that worked best for it. But
also, really, I don't want to work for a guy like you.
Yeah,
if you can't accept this, come on.
I think it goes both ways, and I think when you do walk into that sort of prototypical boardroom setting, there's definitely some sideways stares sometimes. But you can, I feel like, really also connect those dots and I'm not like stuck in anything. I do feel like life will change and evolve as it needs to, and I feel like the most important thing is to just stay true to yourself and in your intuitive sense and your heart, and follow that journey where it leads.
Amen. Because at the end of the day, it's just hair, people.
Yeah.
It doesn't define who you are.
No.
It's so funny. Is it a pain in the ass to take care of?
No.
No?
Nope. Just like anything else. I mean, it takes a little longer to dry out when you wash it or go swimming or anything like that. But no different than any other.
I'm dumb when it comes to dreads. I don't know what it takes to take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
How do you wash them, or do you?
Oh yeah, you definitely wash them. Yeah. So it's just like you would wash your hair any other way. Scrub them out, get a good lather going.
Nice.
Rinse them through, and you're good to go.
Good to know.
Yeah, spent a lot of time surfing in Southern California there, and I have to say there was something very satisfying about being out there in the ocean, watching the sunset, or being out there for the sunrise, and kind of starting and ending each day in that way was a profound part of like kind of my life's journey as well. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that kind of carrying that with me also, in a sense.
Awesome. There's something about the ocean.
There is, yes.
And for me, there's something very specifically special about the Oregon coast. It's magical. It's kind of creepy.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
It is. It's frightening at the same time as it puts you in awe, and
it's
both.
My happy place. That's so awesome. Well, I like your dreads.
Thank you.
They suit you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, so anyway, sorry. I'm a big hair
good.
person. People like to talk about my hair too, so I don't know. Hair is one of the things that I notice first on people, so I had to bring it up. We're going to move on to the final 3. Best advice you've ever been given.
I thought a lot about this one, and I have to say that my youngest daughter, Tyga, she has these kind of aphorisms that she's held and these truths, and this is directly from her. She's 6 years old, and it was, she said, "Dad, a seed is hard to break."
Wow. Start that. That choked me up a little bit. Start that kid writing.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. I love that one because I think that kind of just encapsulates a lot right there. And whatever type of seed that may be, I agree with that one fully. So
Where'd that come from?
that's from her.
Just like, were you guys having a conversation about?
No, it was totally out of left field. Maybe she.
Wow.
Yeah. Maybe she tried to break a seed. I don't know.
She's like, you can't do it.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
Her name's Tyga?
Yes.
Nice job, Tyga. That's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a nice little nugget.
Yeah. Props
of
out
knowledge.
to Tyga on that one.
Major props.
We still touch on it a lot. So.
That's cool. Okay, if you ever left this place, Southern Oregon, what would bring you back here? What would you miss the most?
I think it's got to be the mountains and the waterfalls. I couldn't just do one. You know, I love the mountains. I love the snow. I love the people too, and I love jumping off cliffs and swimming in that fresh water and drinking the water. I mean, anytime I'm out traveling, it's like almost painful to drink water sometimes when you really know what water can be, and the clean, pure water, spring water is wonderful. So
1,000%. I had this exact conversation with someone on a previous episode that, you know, and I live in Medford. Medford water is amazing.
It is.
I'm sure Ashland water is amazing.
not as good as Medford water. You guys have a real nice source up there. Yeah. Tub Springs, and I mean,
you know, I went to high school in Las Vegas. You have to have your water treated because it's so hard. It's gross.
Yep.
You can't drink it.
Yep.
It's so awful.
Yep.
And showering in it is disgusting. I mean, there's just something, we're very lucky about the water here.
We are. Absolutely. That's to me one of those like wealth, those sort of unseen wealth items that we do have here that we're tremendously fortunate to have. And I think a lot of times we take for granted until you actually leave and see what the status is other places.
Do you ever go somewhere where it's not mountainous and you feel a little naked?
A little bit.
It's like, ooh.
Yeah. I was in Vegas recently, and it was just like just endless kind of sprawl and scrub and desert. And I mean, desert, I have nothing against the desert. The desert's beautiful too, but I miss that snow, and I miss the mount. I miss that feeling of embrace too.
Yeah, it's same. I think it's beautiful. It's just not. It's not for me.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. This is my favorite question. Final meal, final drink. What would that look like?
I love the fresh Mexican food, I have to say. This one was a tough one. It was either going to be my kind of dad's sourdough pancakes with blueberries, which are special, but I went with the chile nogales, which kind of like a chile relleno. Traditional Mexican dish for Independence Day with like a walnut sauce and a pomegranate, and then a cilantro or parsley garnish on it. So it's kind of like the colors of the Mexican flag, but
Beautiful.
a wonderful one. And then have to pair that with like a smoky mezcal paloma. Yeah, I think that's the one I'd go
Speaking
out
my
on.
language, palomas are very good, very summery.
Yes, I agree. I love that grapefruit and the. Yep.
All right, Chris, I liked you before, but that answer just sealed the deal for me. Good stuff. If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes and you like it, please subscribe, rate, and review. It helps other people find us. We are also on Google Play, Stitcher, and you can ask your Alexa app to open Off Script. Check out the video portion of this podcast at ktbl.com. Just click on features and then Off Script. One more time, Chris Brown, architect, design, and architecture. You have the coolest business card, by the way.
Thank you.
I play with it when I have writer's block.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah, we make those. We have a little laser cutter in the office, too, and we've used that. We love modeling. We love building. Love making our own cards. And so it's it's okay to have fun and work, right?
Yeah.
Work can be fun too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is my fun part of
Yeah.
my day. The little boxes are supposed to pop out, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. And then they can be stencils, or you can mess with, people do all kinds of stuff and play with those. So that I'm glad to hear that they're being well put to use.
It's getting me past my writer's block on a daily basis. Chris Brown, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.